For years, I've heard about the greatness of Okami, and it's been on my wish list for years and years. I finally started playing it, and man, the introduction absolutely sucked. A lot of people will say never judge a game. Well, actually, some people will say don't judge a game by the first hour of gameplay, whereas some say if the game can't capture my attention in the first hour or 2 hours, it's not worth my time. I'm more of the latter, and I have to say, if you are in that latter camp, Okami is a game that can easily turn you off because it doesn't let you play the game until at least an hour into it. There is so much world building, storytelling, and it takes forever to get the game going. But once the game gets going, oh man, is it a good experience. So I'm only about 5 hours into it. I've made it past the first dungeon, the first boss, and that's where I ended my first stream. This was a game that was part of my 12 Days of Heiji. It was the Discord Select, so the Discord community specifically recommended me to play this game. And I loved it. It was actually a game I did not want to stop streaming, but I'm like, oh, for my health, I should probably stand up, stop streaming, and get ready for my next stream. It was a great time, but let's talk about the bad stuff before we get into the good stuff. The introduction, it takes, I think, about 20 minutes of just storytelling of this is what happened in this world. This is the backstory of the wolf and stuff. And I just realized I didn't write any of the names down, so that's not going to go well in remembering who I'm talking about. And then once you actually get like the whole intro cutscene out of the way, it's a lot of hand-holding tutorial. And the tutorials are even worse because it uses the old classic style of, well, it doesn't use voiceovers, which I'm okay with. It uses the gibberish style, which I'm not a big fan of. And so you've got a text box that you can't speed up, that you have to go through, and it goes like it makes it a sound effect. And then you've got the character that talks to you, whichever character, they talk in gibberish. They're like, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. Banjo-Kazooie suffered from the same thing, where they're talking in gibberish and you can't speed up the text box, and it is the worst. I hate it so much. Now, this is me in now 2022 talking about this, but I think it's important to recognize that this game was made in 2006, and it was a very specific time period for video games, because we were now leaving the limitations of consoles and game hardware. And this was a time when game developers felt empowered, where they could do a lot more. So traditionally, game developers had to build their tutorials in their game design because they just didn't have enough memory and resources to work with in either a game cartridge, a disc, or even the console itself. So tutorials were very short and far between, which was a blessing and a curse. So when they got access to all of these all this extra technology and resources, they went hard on the tutorial and they went hard on the storytelling. Some of these game developers, thinking they're now film producers, put massive cutscenes in there, and they like really blew up what the concept of a video game could be. But as we learned further on, gamers did not like that for the most part. Like, they did not like all these over-the-top tutorials of, here's how you play the game. We learned that the best way to teach a player is to show them or to let them figure it out themselves. And we've kind of come out of that dark age of tutorials. There's still a few games here and there that do that. But for the most part, games now pretty much throw you into the game, and as you're playing it, they will nudge the player in the correct direction. So that is, important to think of that context, because Okami is from that era, and it very much shows, and they didn't fix it with the HD remake, unfortunately. So the first hour is just very painful. Eventually you can skip the dialogue, the text box when you get a little bit further along, but for all the key stuff, you cannot like speed through the text box. You have to go at the speed that the game wants you to, and it just really takes a lot of time, and I don't like that. Otherwise, once you get through that, oh my god, then it gets good. I just want to first comment on one story element, which is the princess, I think she's a princess, Sakuya, who is like the peach fairy or something. So this is kind of like the first character you get introduced to outside of your like key element, like here's the hero, here's the villain. And I'm like, it kind of dawned on me that when the camera was behind her, the way that she's designed, I'm like, is that her butt? Why is her butt sticking out of her dress? And I didn't even click or realize it was designed in a way that I think it's supposed to be a peach, but the way that her dress is made, it literally looks like they cut a hole in her dress and her butt is showing out. I was like, oh, it's that kind of game. And it's actually the chat, they're like, no, it's a peach. I was like, excuse me, what? And then I realized her cleavage can be interpreted as also a peach. So her butt and her cleavage. And I'm like, oh, that's some interesting design on the developer's part. And then later on, there's a lot of like, I don't know, like thirst moments where like the little cricket dude is talking about going inside her kimono and doing stuff. And then as you progress later, I learned that she gets more naked the more you do stuff. I'm like, okay, we got some thirst in this game. I was like, what is this rated? Because there was quite a few innuendos in this game on top of her peach bottom and all of that. So I was like, I was not expecting that. I thought Okami was a nice little innocent game, but we got some booty and some cleavage and some horniness in here. So be aware of that if you're not expecting that, because that really caught me off guard. Now, outside, I think what I love so much about Okami is the fact that there is so much to collect. That is like, it combines two of my favorite things in video games. First of all, there's a lot to collect and find, which only works when the controls are good, and the controls feel really good. And the third is you get to clean things. And I don't know if this is like middle-aged man, or I don't even know if I can identify as middle-aged man. What is middle-aged? But anyways, as a man who must clean his house all the time, there's something so satisfying about cleaning. And this game delivers. Like, you enter a world, it is dark, it is full of evil, and everything is dying. And it is your job to get in there and to make stuff shine and to grow some grass and to put some, like, turn all these dead trees into blossom trees. And I love that. Like, that's why I loved Paper Mario Color Splash, which is another controversial take because a lot of people didn't like that. But I love filling in all the white and coloring the world. I just love fixing things in games. So this game is all like, look, the world is broken. I'm like, I can fix it. And I just love everything about like that concept. So we've already got two key elements that I love. And then on top of that, the combat is really good. Like it's not so complex that I need to like appreciate and dissect it. At this point, I'm pretty much just attacking. The enemy goes white, and then I like pull out my brush and swipe, and it kills them, and that's good enough. Now, I have been teased at the fact that there's more equipment, and there's a huge equipment screen with a lot of missing stuff in it. And you can mix and match that equipment to a primary and a sub-weapon, which lets you have different ways of fighting in battle. I only have a shield right now and some beads that I can shoot at people, or I can use the bead as the primary to have a whip. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've had so much diversity with two weapons. I can't imagine. It looks like we have enough slots for like 12 or 16 weapons. I'm just like, wow, this game's really going to open up in terms of combat later on. But otherwise, just everything from like, there's birds and like things to feed. That's part of collecting. So you have to feed all the animals. And there's this really weird like cutscene about watching the animal feed. And people said skip it because it goes up to 10 minutes. And I watched it for maybe a good 30 seconds. And it's literally, you're the wolf, aka Ami. That's the nickname anyways. And then she's looking at the creature that you're feeding, and the camera pans, and there's like nice music playing. I think it's like if you need to like, I don't know, get a little bit of serenity in your life, you just watch this part. I was skipping it. Clearly I don't need serenity. And then the next unique aspect of this game, which I'm like, oh, this must have really have shined when it was on the Wii, is the fact that you can pull out your brush at any point, and you sometimes have to interact with the world you're seeing and paint stuff in. So it's like, oh, this cliff, there's a bridge missing. You're like, no problem, I'm just gonna paint a bridge in place. Or this tree is dead, no problem, I'm gonna make it blossom by doing a circle on it. But yeah, so you can draw stuff. What else can you do? The drawing actually, yeah, the drawing is critical to the whole exploration and combat. You use it in combat to impact enemies in certain ways, to like slash them, use them in the environment to explore and open stuff up. Just a fantastic game. This is a game I do want to play to completion because of the collectible aspect of it. I don't know if I will be streaming this in 2022 to play it with all of you, or if I'm going to be playing it on myself, but this is going on my official backlog to play in 2022 and complete. And if I do complete, I'll be back with a Hey Jay Completes video to share what that experience is like. Otherwise, fantastic recommendation. Hey Jay community, thank you so much for recommending it. I'm finally glad I got to play this game now. What are we? 2006, like 15 years later. Man, it aged well too. Outside of that intro section, it just aged so well. So if you haven't had the chance to pick it up, I really strongly recommend it so far because it's a fun time. I'll see you in the next video or stream, and until next time, classy crew, keep it classy. Do 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 do. Subscribe.